This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is March 18th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, the Magic are back at it again. Winners of 3 in a row. How are we feeling?
I feel good. You stumbled a little bit there. You got back on the horse, and we're back. We're back riding. We're back beating those teams that are not playoff teams. 3 in a row. You got Charlotte, and then you got a big one. A big just gauge, barometer for how your team is. You know, are they really back to doing things that a winning team does in terms of, you've seen them kind of fall and get scraped up against the Knicks, obviously, and then right after that against the Pacers. But when it comes to the Pelicans on Thursday night, you got a lot to prove in that game. Can you hang with them? The Pelicans are kind of that game in general is going to be interesting because there's a lot of parallels in terms of the media. A lot of people saying like the Pelicans aren't getting the coverage that they deserve, calling them kind of the mirror images as far as that goes. Just kind of teams that should be the darlings of the conference at this point, doing really well, not getting the coverage. So that'll be fun. That's on national TV, NBA TV on Thursday. So not really. We don't count those.
Yeah.
But it'll be there. And I'm excited to see how this team does it. If they can take care of Charlotte on Tuesday, which they should, Thursday, make it extended to 5. You guys know what that means.
If you're super in tune with our show, then yes, you would know exactly what that means. However, Luke, we're not going to record between that 5th and 6th game. So the Magic really have to knock off the Pelicans and the Kings for us to get to a shirtless Sunday recording episode.
It is going to be a tall task, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we might get 5 wins, but you may all not get to see the parts of Luke that you want to see.
Right.
Speaking of parts of people's bodies, I think we should really just talk about what happened after tonight's game against the Raptors, in which Anthony Black and Grady Dick decided to remove their jerseys after the game, just showing their last names. From left to right, it was Anthony Black, number 0, and then Grady Dick was standing next to him. And the Magic, they took a photo of this and they posted it to social media. And like one could assume and put 2 and 2 together, it has just taken over NBA Twitter tonight. Everybody is talking about it. A few minutes after they posted the photo, they removed the photo for whatever reason. We don't have that information. But my take on this is that it is not Anthony Black and Grady Dick's fault that their names are what they are, that their last names are what they are. And they were standing in alphabetical order, in terms of last names next to each other, and wanted to have a photo to commemorate their rookie season together, and one of the greatest photos of all time. Once the photo is, like plenty of other people have made this point, once the photo is posted and it's gone viral, just leave it. At least your account is going to get the attention, whether that be positive or negative. But what a photo.
I agree. You keep it up. You and I disagree. However, you keep it up. That's crazy. That's crazy. You and I both agree.
Oh my!
The photo.
Just say that.
Remain on the social channels. That should happen. You keep them up. However, I'm not buying your BS about they can't help their last names. They're just doing it to commemorate the class. No, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they even rearranged themselves for optimal photo opportunities. So, yes, the Magic should indeed. I give it to you one more time. Pause. The Magic should have kept it up, and that is what it is. You made the decision. And no matter how much you regret it or people on the team regret it, Stephen A. Smith had already quote tweeted it. The biggest personality in sports media had already addressed this, reacted to it. It's just PR at that point. And that is really any PR is good PR at that point. You have it's already there forever as well. Like, you can't act like it didn't happen. Now you kind of just look ridiculous that you took it down. Because it's like, we know you did it. Everyone under the sun has put it out there. Pardon My Take from Barstool has put it out there. And you know that Barstool fans are going to take it and run it to the ends of the earth. So, leave it up next time. There will never ever be a next time. Magic Social Team is going to have a rule in place specifically, and they're going to call it the Anthony Black Grady Dick rule. And it's never, every intern that comes to the Magic, every admin that comes to the Magic will hear it on orientation day. This is what you don't do. You don't talk about Shelvin Mack dropping dimes.
You
don't post that.
I'm so happy that you brought up Shelvin Mack, because there are posts that are going to live in infamy in Orlando Magic social media history. Shelvin Mack is one of them. And this one is like, nothing is ever going to top this.
No,
that was not. No, that what you said was way worse than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that, Anthony Black and Grady Dick.
Moving on here. All right, folks. Our group night is coming up in a couple of weeks here on March the 30th, when the Magic take on the Memphis Grizzlies. If you were one of the quick, attentive, lucky enough folks to have one of the first 60 tickets, which we've already sold out of, that includes like our pregame hoops experience, where we haven't got the exact time yet. I know it's going to be like between 1 and 3 o'clock, somewhere around there, that we're going to be able to play on the Magic's floor. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to see how many folks show up, how many people want to play basketball, divide those up into 5-man teams, and then see how many games we can get everybody to play over the course of the couple hours there. Some teams may have some substitutions depending on what happens, but want to have everybody get at least 20 minutes of floor time. Maybe not all in one chunk. Maybe it's like 2 separate 10-minute games. But want to give everybody the opportunity to get up and down on the floor, and for it to be an enjoyable experience. Like 30 people shooting on one hoop is not fun for anybody. So we're going to try to get a little bit creative with the format of how we're going to get everyone on the floor. And then roughly between like 4:30 and 6 o'clock, we're going to say everybody head over to Jam Hot. Myself, Luke, we're going to, go and shower up. Not together. Hopefully, I don't need to specify that for anybody. But yeah, with the way the episode started, maybe we need to put that out there. But we'll go and get freshened up separately, and then head over to Jam Hot Chicken and hang out, from 4:30 to 6, and then we'll all head over to the game and sit in section 118 together. Now, outside of the pregame hoops experience, we do have additional tickets that are going to go up for sale as you're listening to this. So this is not part of the pregame hoops experience, but if you want to sit in that section with us and you want discounted tickets to that game, you can head to FEVO, FEVO, FEVO-enterprise.com/event/sixth man, and then the number 6. So FEVO-enterprise.com/event/SIXTHMAN, and then the number 6 to get your tickets. I don't know exactly how many tickets they have, in inventory there, but we told them, hey, if we have the opportunity to give Magic fans discounted rates to a game and come and hang out with us, you're more than welcome to join us at Jam Hot Chicken before the game, obviously. And then, at about 6 o'clock, we'll all start to head over to the Kia Center and sit in section 118 for that game. Really, really looking forward to that. Our next episode of the Six Fan Show is going to be filmed this Thursday when the Magic take on the Pelicans at home. So if you'd like to join that, mark that on your calendar. Even if you're not at the game, if you're watching the game at a bar downtown and after the game you want to walk over to Kia and be part of the Six Fan Show, we definitely encourage you all to do that. And just wanted to talk about the watch party that we had this past Friday over at the Twisted Handle, which is 1632 North Mills Avenue over there in Orlando. Awesome venue. The food was fantastic. The staff was awesome. They said it was one of the busiest nights they've ever had. Like, it might have like broken records. Had a really good crowd. Just so many people out there, like seeing like Orlando come together, and to know that we've had like a small hand in that is really just so much fun. They had me play the song over the intercom after the game. Everybody in the restaurant obviously is dancing and singing along to the song, and it was a great win. Big thanks to everybody that came out. We always get questions on, hey, when's the next watch party? When are you guys going to do another watch party? We're heading to the playoffs, folks. Like, that is becoming more and more a reality each and every day. So the next watch parties are most likely going to come during the playoffs, and we're going to be doing things pretty big from what we've heard so far. So really looking forward to that. And now let's get into the state of the Magic and talk some Orlando Magic basketball here, Luke. This week, the Magic went 3-0 with wins over Brooklyn and then 2 wins over Toronto. They currently sit 5th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 40-28, 13.5 games back of Boston, 4 games back of Milwaukee, 2.5 games back of Cleveland, a half game back of New York, 2 games up on Indiana, 2.5 games up on Miami and Philadelphia, 7 games up on Chicago, 10 games up on Atlanta. And on the season, the Magic are 23rd in the NBA in offensive rating with a rating of 112.8, 4th in the NBA in defensive rating with a defensive rating of 111.1, and 13th in net rating with a net rating of 1.8. Since the All-Star break, more importantly, Luke, the Magic are 10-3, 16th in offensive rating, 2nd in defensive rating, and 5th in net rating. The last month or so since the All-Star break, Magic are playing fantastic basketball, Luke.
They are. And there's one thing that I wanted to bring up here, Jonathan, just because it's a fun tidbit that I, in prepping for the show and just looking at in general. Did you know that the Magic's offensive rating right now of 113.3, this was coming into tonight's game against Toronto, is second best in franchise history? There's a lot of context there. But that's it funny. Is. The number one was the 94-95 Magic team that lost in the finals. 115.1 was their offensive rating. At that time, the difference here between the best offensive rating and the second best in franchise history is that was good for third in the NBA in 94-95. And the Magic at this point, like you said, it's like 20-somethings. So a big difference there. Speaks to the maybe increased talent, lack of defense, whatever your perspective is on offensive rating, and the reason for the influx, obviously, high volume of threes, more points, yada yada. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But yes, the Magic have been hot since the All-Star break, and something that we hope that we're approaching our second 5-game win streak since then as well.
Hope so. Hope we can make it 6, so you can do what you do.
Exactly right.
During win streaks. Give the people what they want.
Generational shirtless lad is what they call me, actually. So
tarps off.
Yeah,
that's off. One of my favorite. I want to say that I know that's an Australian thing. I've heard plenty of Australian people say that. That might also be like a European thing, but that's one of my favorite phrases. Like tarps
it's a great
off.
Phrase.
I just love the thought of calling your shirt a tarp and just yeah. So tarps off.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the injury report, mostly clean. Now, Jonathan Isaac was out Sunday versus Toronto with left knee injury management. Now, it wasn't a back-to-back. It was not a third game in 4 nights type of thing. It's just they're continuing to manage his minutes. Going back, we'll talk about this game in detail, but going back to Friday night, Jonathan Isaac played 20 minutes in that game. So it feels like we're getting him, in a playoff form. Obviously, Jamal Mosley's been experimenting with playing Jonathan Isaac at the 5. But, for whatever reason, maybe this was like one of those predetermined nights where like, hey, you're just going to rest, that night. Now, this was a game where if you were going to rest JI, this was probably a good night to do it. Had reasonable expectations to win the game versus Toronto, which you did, with or without Jonathan Isaac. But we're hoping that we start to see, less and less of that over the course of the next 3.5 weeks, the last 14 games of the season, because you want him to be in a rhythm, right? If he is going to be playing at the 5, you want him to get those reps, want him to be in a rhythm. And if you're going to continue to increase those minutes, you want to give enough time to be able to do that. Ideally, when it comes to the playoffs, Jonathan Isaac would be playing, 25, 27 minutes per game. So although he was out tonight, expect he's going to be a full go Tuesday against Charlotte. Okay, let's go back to Friday night. Talk about this first game against Toronto. The Magic get off to a really good start. A 10-3 lead they run out to in the first couple of minutes forces the Raptors to call a timeout. And for the most part of that first quarter, Magic had a 5 to 7 point lead. Toronto starts to chip away at that a little bit. They take the lead actually 27 to 24 to end the first quarter. Magic were able to have a bounce back second quarter, and they head into the half 50 to 48. And now there were a couple of factors in that first half for the Magic. One of them, in my opinion, was just the amount that they put the Raptors at the line. 11 to 14 from Toronto in that first half. The Magic just really weren't doing a good job of defending without fouling. And they also committed 8 turnovers in that first half. Those two, items alone, the Magic shot 45% from the floor, 35% from behind the arc. Both of those are pretty close to their average. But you were just giving Toronto, way too many free points and way too many free possessions with the way that you were defending and the way that you were fouling. Now, luckily, they were able to clean that up when we talk about the second half. So you held Toronto to 6 free throw attempts in the second half, and you only commit 6 turnovers in that second half. Paolo Banchero was a big catalyst for the Magic in that third quarter, helping them win that third quarter 34 to 25, taking a nice lead into the fourth quarter. And now we all know at this point, I think the Magic are 33-1, I think it is, Luke, on the season when they have the lead going into the fourth quarter, which is just really impressive because not all of those are 7, 8, 9, 10-point leads. Some of those have been 2 and 3-point leads. But when you give the Magic a lead heading into the fourth quarter, all season long, they have found a way to win that game. Paolo had 11 in that third quarter. He was 3 of 5 from the floor, 1 of 1 from behind the arc, and 4 of 4 at the free throw line. Added 4 rebounds, 4 assists. For some guys, that's a great night. For Paolo, he played the entire third quarter. That's just a really good third quarter for Paolo Banchero. And talking about the third quarter, Luke, I want to take a moment to go to our segment presented by our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken. This is the Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Weeks, folks. It came Friday night against Toronto. Going back to the 8:56 mark, I think it was Jonte Porter for the Raptors, tries to throw the lob to Ochai Agbaji. He misses it. Wendell Carter comes up with the rebound, passes it to Jalen Suggs. Jalen recognizes that they have the 2-on-1. He passes the ball to Franz. Franz lobs the ball up in the air. Jalen Suggs catches the ball with both hands, switches over just to just the right, slams it home to give the Magic a 10-point lead with 8:48 to go in the third quarter. Luke, that is this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week.
And if you guys haven't heard of Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, specifically 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13, and Hannibal Square. Really cool outside seating. You can go on their website, jamhotchickenfl.com, access their menu to order, and then online ordering to order ahead, music playlist, all things Jam Hot. Go follow them on social media at Jam Hot Chicken. And when you go to visit them, make sure to tell them that you heard about them from the Six Man Show. Helps us, lets them know that our partnership is going well. And man, we have just gotten nothing but encouraging things about Jam Hot Chicken from everybody that's tried it. So go try it. Let them know we sent you. Go check them out.
Now back to this game, Luke. Going to the fourth quarter, Magic were up 11 heading into the fourth. Outscored Toronto 20. Well, they were outscored, I should say, 29-30. So just by 1, and it's enough to hold on to that 10-point lead. In the Magic end up winning this one, 113-103. Again, Paolo Banchero almost messed around and had a triple-double, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Franz Wagner played a sub-500 team. We know that he plays well in those games. 19 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 6 of 9 from the floor. I want to stop saying that, right? But he also has to prove that he's able to perform against the better teams in the league. I hate that. Like, since we've talked about that, it's come up on the last couple of podcasts, but it's just like, we know that you can do this. Like, we know that you can do this. You've proven it time and time again that, some of the, non-elite teams in the league you've had big games of. And now we're talking this week, we've got the Pelicans, we've got the Kings, we're getting ready to play the Warriors as well. I want some big Franz games in those games so that we can sort of put this narrative to rest. Wendell was really good in this one, 15 points, 6 of 10 from the floor, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. Jalen Suggs was awesome, 16 points, 6 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 6 from behind the arc. Cole Anthony, J.I., both good in this game, 12 points for Cole, 10 points for J.I., 2 blocks, including a sick block on, I think it was Grady Dick, if I'm not mistaken, that they called goaltending and went back and J.I. got to that just before that went off the glass. At least that's my recollection. There was a lot going on in that watch party. I know that was challenged. I can't remember if that was overturned, but in my eyes, that was a clean block, and now I'm actually forgetting the outcome of that. But it was a sick block nonetheless. You could see J.I. sort of timing it up the entire way. But Luke, another example here of like win the games that you should win. You can only play who's in front of you. You can only play the teams that are on your schedule. Magic have played against a lot of bad teams as of late, but is that their fault? No, they're winning games. They are a good team. They're beating bad teams, but good teams beat bad teams, and that's what's been happening lately.
And Jonathan Isaac continues to just be an anomaly in general. Like, we know defensively he has been an anomaly, right? Like, we don't know how he is so good defensively, uses his length so well, and is able to, even when he gambles, he's able to get back to the play and make a block from behind, whatever it might be.
And they did reverse that call. I just went back and confirmed.
Yeah, they did. And even on that side, defensively, we know what Jonathan Isaac is. Offensively, we've talked about it recently, but it's like I just keep waiting for the other shoe to drop offensively for him. Mainly when it comes to his 3-point shot, which in the last 10 games he's hitting 63% of his threes, and of course it's low volume, but it is still way better and way more than I thought that he would ever get to shooting again. So, and I think it's like just under 2 attempts a game, but he's shooting at a high amount in this Toronto game specifically, making his presence felt with the couple blocks that he did have. 6 rebounds, 2 for 4 from 3, 10 points in 20 minutes. We've said it time and time again, but just to reiterate, if Jonathan Isaac can play in the playoffs where there are no back-to-backs, and you can have him available at all times playing 20-plus minutes a game, it really could shift the series. And you just think about how effective that he is. I mean, we've looked at his on-off numbers. We looked at his 2-man lineups. Like, he is the greatest impact right now for this team because of what he brings to the table. And if he can just continue to ratchet up offensively, he will be pivotal come playoff time, as we all know. The one thing in this game that's outrageous to me is that Toronto had 37 fast break points to the Magic's 13. You did a better job on Sunday night in the rematch. Much better job when it comes to fast break points, limiting their pace and the ability to get on the break. But ridiculous to me. 37 fast break points for the Magic. I think that could be an underlooked reason for the reason that this game was even a 10-point game. Outrageous number. You get out rebounded by 1. They get 9 offensive rebounds to your 6. And points in the paint, I think especially with the roster they've got right now, you should be scoring 60 plus in the paint against this Raptors team. Weren't able to get it done on Friday in the paint. Thankfully, you got away with the win in general. Wendell Carter Jr. was awesome in this one, showing some improving signs and really encouraging here as of late, despite Paolo Banchero going 5 of 15 from the field. But shout out to Paolo, six attempts from the line, hits all 6. This game is confusing. It's hard to gauge when you're playing a team like Toronto that is just, I mean, they're playing 10-day contract guys. They're playing, rookies heavy minutes. It's hard to gauge. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. Just continue to fine tune and get out of there with a win. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I think it was Gary Trent Jr., I believe, that after the game on Friday, he was talking about, if like Jonathan Isaac is hitting contested threes, like that's something you're going to just sort of live with. And, going back to, the last 30 plus games, like he's shooting really, really high clip from behind the arc, albeit low volume. And I just want to point out that for some reason, Gary Trent Jr. was dressed like Macho Man Randy Savage after the game, like wearing like the big sunglasses and a bandana, like just looked like Macho Man Randy Savage after the game. So like weird flex from him to take a shot at J.I. But yeah, it was frustrating the way that they started the game and then sort of let Toronto come back. In the entire game, it felt like the Magic just knew that, hey, we can really decide this game whenever we want. And in the third quarter, they decided to do that. And it was really the same Sunday night as well, which we'll talk about. And I talked about this on the post-game live tonight that I did after Sunday night's game. And like the 2012 Miami Heat, I remember watching that team during their 27-game win streak, and they just had a switch that they could turn on like in the middle of the third quarter and beat anybody. It didn't matter what the team was, who was in front of them. They could just decide, we're going to beat you now, and then the game would be over. The Magic can't do that against everybody yet, but the Magic can do that against bad teams, and they know they can do that. We've seen that against Detroit recently. We've seen it against Washington, against Charlotte, the last couple of games against Toronto. The Magic know that if they play these bad teams evenly, when that third quarter rolls around, they can turn it on, basically conserve their energy for most of the game, turn it on in the third quarter, go on a little bit of a run, keep the other team at arm's length for the most of the fourth quarter, play well for a few minutes, like under the 5-6 minute mark in the fourth quarter, and basically like just remove all hope that you're going to come back in that game against the Magic. And that's sort of how they're treating bad teams. I don't love that philosophy, but right now it's working and they're winning games. Now, will that come back to bite them? It absolutely did against New York and against Indiana, good teams, which I'm of the mindset that, hey, like we need to figure out what is going on. And while we're having really good starts and then either the bench unit isn't playing that well or we're letting these teams sort of come back into it. Because if you don't have the energy and the intensity for 48 minutes against teams this time of year, you have blowouts like you did against the Knicks and you did the Pacers.
And also in this one, I do want to shout out our guy, Fazan Amer, who tweeted out a really good analysis of kind of the way that Jamal Mosley made an adjustment in the second half that became pivotal. And what I'm alluding to is the fact that in the first half of this game, Paolo struggled incredibly. First half of this game, he goes 2 of 8 from the field, shooting 25%, has 6 points. But in the second half, the key adjustment that was made by Jamal Mosley was utilizing him as a screener in the pick and rolls with Ingles to relieve pressure, essentially to where he didn't have all the attention being the primary ball handler. He was able to play off ball, whether it was slip to the basket, pop out for a three, whatever it had to be. Jamal just noticed that he was struggling in that first half, wanted to try a different look, maybe throw Toronto off defensively in that case, and Paolo was able to account for 10 points as the screener in the second half. Also shoots in the second half 43% from the field, which is way better at that point than 25%. And he scores 11 in that second half. So shout out to Jamal Mosley, huge adjustment, and then just big ups to Fazan Amer for kind of going back, breaking down the film. If you guys do not follow Fazan on Twitter, we say it all the time, but you do need to go throw him a follow. He is at Fazan Amer, and that's AMER for his last name and underscore on Twitter. Go follow him. Show him some love. He deserves it. This dude, like, he's not a Magic fan. He's not a Magic fan, and he texts me, I don't remember if it was later that night or the next day, and asked, basically just said, like, yeah, just finished watching the game, like rewatching the game. And so this is a dude that is just like grinding, watching film, doing his thing, pointing out and just like bringing great analysis. Everybody had great things to say about that tweet because it's something that not everybody is watching. how are the Magic utilizing Paolo as a screener in the first half versus second half, things that Fazan is able to pick up and has an eye for. Dude has a gift. So shout out to him for that. And it was a huge adjustment. Again, shout out to Jamal Mosley for making that adjustment, showing continued growth. Mosley talks a lot about growth for the players, but Mosley himself has had a lot of growth and the adjustments that he makes. And that was just one of them that I wanted to highlight because it is so impressive.
Absolutely. But we own Fazan's Bulls, so he can take that after all the nice things that you just said about him. Okay, we're going to take a quick moment here to shout out our wonderful patrons, the folks that help support the show, help us do everything that we do. Anytime we have a brand new patron, we give them a very special shout out, and we shout out our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons on every single episode. So if you would like a special shout out, you can either join the Patreon. If you want a shout out every episode, you can join at our Elite or Hall of Fame tiers. And we will start by shouting out the Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Ellis, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch, Dave, Palin, Francis Warth, Pierre A., Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Daniel, Dodo 15, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Emin Lagone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Ty, Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Bruce, Halfreakin, Shahin 177, Bobby the Dawn, Himlo Ben Himro, RM Prof 221, Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Mysterious Mosley, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampe, Random Hustle, Only Franz Maria, Keith Walsh, Fritz, Currency Kev, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Santi Leon, Kane Eckler, The Distract, Ahmad Timsa, Chantu, Tom Gadsden, Dead Air, Richard Tuttle, Jeremiah Quintero, Magic Wire, Debo 1980, Magic Matt, Michael Thompson, Mama Richard, Next Napa, JR Ponce. A big thank you to all of our patrons again. You can find us at patreon.com/the6man show. Luke, what happened Sunday night?
So Sunday night, we took a trip back home. We are now this is game 1 of the 8-game ridiculous homestand that the Magic have the ability to take full advantage of, and they did it. They started off on the right foot here in Kia in Orlando, win this one, ultimately 111-96. But the first quarter, I had a little bit of deja vu at the beginning. Magic get out to a hot start, forces Toronto head coach Darko to call a timeout. I believe they start the game out like 11-4 or something like that. Maybe that's when it gets triggered, that timeout. But ultimately, the Magic go up 18-8, and then you get some more flashbacks where it's in Toronto on Friday. You mentioned that big lead built at the beginning, sizable lead, 10-plus points. Toronto comes back with an answer and closes the gap and kind of keeps it close the rest of the first half. Much of the same in this game. Much of the same. You're up by 5 at the end of that first half. And then the third quarter, it becomes a little bit of the Jalen Suggs show. In that third quarter, Jalen Suggs is really the spark plug for this team in general, as we know. But he goes ahead and he scores 8 points in that third. Paolo Banchero scores 14, 5 of 6. Paolo plays the entire third. Jalen plays 11 minutes, we'll call it, in that third quarter. 2 for 2 from 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 2 of 4 from the field. So those two guys really shouldered the load for the Magic there in that third quarter, and they outscore the Raptors 35-26 in that quarter. Going into that fourth, ultimately you're just keeping them at arm's length, keeping that lead sizable. But really what I want to get to is that third quarter. As far as just maybe we finally have had a switch flip a little bit, obviously factors in the fact that we have been playing some non-playoff teams here in the last few games. But after the game, Franz Wagner essentially said that the Magic had a talk after the Pacers game where you come out flat in that second half, and his quote was, "We got to make sure we come out of the half with the right mindset, attitude, and right aggression as well. I think the last couple games we've been doing that," end quote. So that's good to hear, Jonathan, that they are at least addressing and making an effort, because we've gone through just like patches throughout the season where it looks like this team doesn't know what to do. They come out in the third quarter, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of direction. And now in the last few games, the Magic, the Nets, the Raptors twice, the Magic have outscored their opponent pretty heavily in that third quarter. And as we understand, with that record of the Magic being 33-1 going into the fourth quarter now, when you have the lead, just how important that third quarter is. It shows that if you're able to take care of business the first three quarters, this team is going to put you away in the fourth, which is very impressive for a team as young as the Magic are to be able to have that record going into the fourth when you're up. I don't think that that's maybe talked enough. I know that we've heard the stat throughout the year of we've tracked it where what the Magic's record is going into that fourth quarter, Jonathan. But if you really think about how incredible that is for a team this young to do that, hang on the lead, knowing going into that fourth, okay, my team can basically put their foot on their neck and take care of business no matter who it is. I mean, that's essentially 33 of your 40 wins. You've been up going into the fourth. So that was the most impressive thing for me. Accountability in the post-game press conference from Franz, being transparent about the conversations that happened. And like I said, the Magic ultimately win this one 111-96 and take care of Toronto.
Apart from the post-game photo op that we've already discussed, the thing that I'm going to remember the most from this game, I want to take you back to the third quarter. Jonte Porter coughs up the ball. Jalen Suggs ends up with it, is running the other way. It is a 4-on-1 fast break.
Yeah.
And Jalen Suggs stops and pulls up from 28 feet and wets a three.
Yeah.
Just the confidence that he is shooting with. And you and I have talked about this. Every time he pulls up from three, I feel like it's going in. The audacity to pull up on the break in transition when you're outnumbered 4-1 and to pull up the three and to sink it. There were a couple of teammates talking to Jalen after the next play. I don't know what exactly it was about. I hope it was not about this 3-point attempt. I don't think it was. But in the moment, I'm like, let this young man cook. If he is feeling it, I'm fine with Jalen Suggs, heat checks. Was just awesome. But no, these were sort of copycat mirror games, Friday and Sunday. And Paolo Banchero again talked about 14 points in the third quarter. You have the lead going into the fourth, and you just sort of put your foot on their necks and win this game pretty comfortably. And you sweep the season series against the Raptors, which again, even today or yesterday, we're still getting comments on that 2021 draft reaction video of us being excited about getting Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner. And I would still take Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner over Scotty Barnes at this point. So, awesome to sweep the Raptors, get another much needed win. You're 40-28. I think you're 2 or 3 wins away from clinching the postseason. The Magic could win their next 2 games, I believe, and then lose games for the rest of the year. They would still end up in at least the play-in.
Right. Now
they're not going to only win 2 more games the rest of the way here, but it just shows you the growth that this team has made.
I want to add something about Jalen Suggs because it is something that I've noted, and then coincidentally, Fazan mentions it to me the other day as well, and I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. I haven't done the digging on it, but this game is kind of proof, maybe, or helps what I'm talking about, which is Jalen Suggs tends to have these quarter takeovers, and then you don't really hear from him offensively in other quarters. And it's bizarre, and I get it because you've got Paolo and you've got Franz, you've got other, high usage options. But when this kid gets going, there's not, besides Paolo, there's not another guy. I mean, maybe Cole, but Jalen Suggs this year, when he gets hot, it's a ton of fun. And when he stops on a dime and takes that in transition 3, I didn't really bat an eye. That's Jalen Suggs, which is hilarious because that's not we didn't know this Jalen Suggs till this year, the one that we trust to do stuff like that. Ill-advised. If it doesn't fall, it's a bad shot. But it went in. And I've got nothing bad to say about it because it's Jalen Suggs. And he's the heartbeat of this team. Everything flows through him in a lot of ways. And I just wish that he was maybe made a little bit more of a focal point. He's more than a 12-point per game scorer. Obviously, we know what he brings defensively, but even offensively, he's more than that. The points per game total doesn't tell the story. You obviously need to look at his efficiencies and the jumps and all of that. There's a ton to his story. But I just think you've got to get him involved a little bit more. Not like he's severely inefficient. It is solely lack of maybe game plan and schematics as to why he doesn't see more when it comes to the offensive workload. It's great you can throw it to him for a quarter and say, Jalen, this is essentially your quarter. But I think he needs more than 9.5 field goal attempts a game too. You just
I think
have
that's
to make
coming.
it happen.
I think it's coming. I think it's next year. Give him another offseason to not only address the shooting, but just tighten up the handle a little bit more. We've talked about this. He can get to his spots anytime that he wants, but the next step is going to be like getting to the rim and finishing at a high clip, which he struggled with at times. So I think that's coming next year. I also think that there's only so much he can give you offensively before he has to sacrifice at least something on the defensive end, because he's going a million miles an hour for all 27 minutes a game that he's playing right now. And if he's going to give you more offensively, I think he's just going to have to drop off a little bit defensively. I just don't see him being able to score 17 points a game and play with the defensive intensity that he plays every possession with. Yeah. But even if he's 95 or 90% of the defender that he is now, he's still one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league. And I do think we are going to see another offensive jump from Jalen Suggs. This has been going around social media the last couple of days from StatMuse. Paolo retweeted it, obviously, but we have to talk about this. If Paolo's numbers hold up, which I want to pull up Paolo's exact numbers on the year. While
you're doing that, can I just talk real quick? One last thing about Suggs.
Please do. I've got it, but yeah, go right ahead.
I'll make it quick here. So like, you're talking about, obviously, like if he can even give you 90% of what he's giving you defensively, he's still one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. JJ Redick said it, and I haven't been able to shake it, and the quote, but he says, like, for more offense, you're going to sacrifice defensively, whether that's by way of bringing in a shooter who's not as gifted defensively, or maybe it comes to a point where Jalen Suggs has more games where he is offensively oriented, and he is not. I don't know that it's in his DNA, but I still think offensively he can be a bigger focal point and sacrifice some of what he's given you defensively and still be very effective. And as a team defender, off ball, on ball, however you want him, but I do think he can be an X factor offensively, and I would love to see it. Even if I'm only getting 80% of Jalen Suggs as a defender, the spark that he brings defensively is great, obviously. And what was it? He picked up, was it Emmanuel Quickly? Picked him up 94 feet tonight. Almost caused the 8-second violation as well. Quickly barely gets rid of it, I think, but just hounding him. He is great on that end, obviously, but yeah, I'm hopeful that he can just become more involved offensively and just lessen a little bit of what he gives you defensively. You can afford it, and this is an offensive league. Yes, defense is going to help come playoff time, but I crave what Jalen Suggs gives this team offensively in those moments, like the third quarter tonight. But anyway, that was my last thing.
Yeah, I guess I have something to add to that. Then, like. If Jalen can pick it up offensively a bit, like the comparisons for Jalen have always been like Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday. Like Drew Holiday obviously had some great seasons in New Orleans where he was scoring, like 19 or 20 points a game or whatever. I don't know that Jalen can get quite to that level, but I think he can be better than Marcus Smart. Like, is he going to be quite as good defensively? Like, will he win a Defensive Player of the Year? I don't know. But I think he can be almost just as good as Marcus Smart defensively. And I think he could be much better offensively than Marcus Smart, just like more dynamic. I think he could be a better shooter than Marcus Smart. Like, I think Jalen Suggs' ceiling is somewhere between Marcus Smart and Drew Holiday. And that's an insane place to be if he can continue to grow offensively. We know he's going to get it done defensively. But yeah, Jalen's just going to be really, really freaking good.
Yeah.
So in reference to what I was talking about a moment ago with Paolo Banchero, right now he's averaging 22.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 5.3 assists. And StatMuse tweeted out a couple of days ago, 21-year-olds to average 22, 5, and 5 in a season. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and now Paolo Banchero. That is the list.
Yeah.
To be in any kind of list in your 21-year-old season with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic, this is what we talk about when people talk about Paolo Banchero, like that clown on The Ringer that said, oh, some years you get the number one overall pick and it's Wemby, and some years you get the number one overall pick and it's Paolo Banchero, and then try to walk that back and seem like, oh, I wasn't saying that disrespectfully. Go back and listen to that condescending idiot's voice. Was absolutely saying it as a slight to Paolo Banchero. But yeah, sometimes you get the number one overall pick and it's Paolo Banchero who is in lists with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic. If you're listening to anybody talk about Paolo Banchero, first thing you need to ask them, okay, hey, are you watching the games? Oh, I've seen him a couple of times. Stop them right there. You don't need to continue the conversation. Unless you're watching the games and you are seeing what Paolo Banchero is doing and bringing on a nightly basis, you don't need to entertain these conversations when people try to compare Paolo Banchero to other players or they try to speak to his ceiling or lack of a ceiling. The ceiling is the roof, folks. To quote the great Michael Jordan, the ceiling, or to quote Mean Girls, the ceiling does not exist. The limit does not exist for Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero can be one of the best players in the NBA, bar none. Like, Paolo Banchero has everything that it takes to be one of the very best players in our league and is on the trajectory to get there now. And like, just when we see stuff like this, it's like, wow, that's a crazy list, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
He's an all-star, ladies and gentlemen, and he's 21, and he's in his second season, and
has no spacing.
Correct. Has no spacing, and voted by and thought of by his peers, by coaches, media, that he was worthy of an all-star vote. We saw it in voting returns from fans. We saw it on the reserves voting. Saw it on player voting, all of that. Paolo Banchero is an all-star. He's in conversations with players that are all Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers, two of which being in the running for the greatest of all time. And the other one, to be quite honest with you, could be in that conversation if you win some championships.
Seems pretty good. I don't know.
So that seems good.
What do we know?
We don't know a lot. But what I do know, that Paolo Banchero is special. And if anybody tries to slide him, they just don't watch basketball. And I think I'm going to have to implement a rule for myself soon that I just don't engage with like Paolo Banchero slander. Because it's just kind of like, oh, bless your heart. It's like you have no idea. You just don't know. You don't watch games. And whatever, right? And it's different if it's like, oh, you're an OKC fan and you want to say Chet over Paolo. Like, whatever, you're biased. We're all biased in the end. But Paolo Banchero statistically is special. So, yeah, that's really the end of my thought of what you said there.
Not to mention, like, he isn't. They're not going to be able to just double team Paolo Banchero forever. Right. Like when Franz's game like fully matures, when Paolo's game fully matures, Jalen Suggs, you add a few other offensive pieces to this team, and you really build around Paolo. There's going to come a time where it's like, look, like what the Magic did to LeBron James in the 2009 Eastern Conference Finals. Let him score 40 points a game, because if not, he's going to kick it out, and they're really going to kill us. There's going to come a time where teams are just like, hey, we're not going to be able to double team Paolo Banchero. And as his game continues to develop and mature, like that's when it's over. Like the efficiency stuff does not bother me whatsoever. There's plenty of evidence out there. I think Josh Cohen of OrlandoMagic.com, I think he wrote a piece a few weeks ago, like going into like this is why Paolo's like on off numbers. He went into like how much teams are playing their starters while Paolo is on the floor and how much they're playing their bench unit while he's off the floor and so on and so forth. Like went through all the matchup data, all that kind of stuff. Like it's just silly. All Magic fans, save yourself a lot of headache and stress and just like loss of brain cells. If people are not watching the Magic at least once a week, I would say, just don't engage. It's not worth it. They don't know what they're talking about, and you're not going to get anywhere. So you're just wasting your time.
Spoiler alert, only the NBA sickos are watching the Magic once a week if they're not a fan. So
correct.
That's a small percentage of people that are NBA sickos. So, yeah, you're not going to be finding yourself engaging with a lot of people if you do take that rule. And this is preaching to ourselves as well. We fall into the bait all the time when it comes to stuff like this because that's our guy.
The only time I feel the need to do it is when it's just so unbelievably egregious and ridiculous. And most of the time I just quote tweet it. I don't do the back and forth. I just say, hey, this guy's dumb, and then I move on.
Well, it's the people with a platform, the people that have made themselves, put themselves on the platform, been put there, and are well aware that all of my opinions can get aired out, and they're recorded, and they exist forever. Those are the people that deserve it. Because those are the ones that are supposed to be the NBA sickos. And Big Waz is not an NBA sicko. I don't care what anybody says.
He's a sicko, but he's not an NBA sicko.
He's not watching the Magic once a week. I can guarantee you that.
I don't even know if he's watching the NBA once a week. I would be really, really surprised. And like, I don't want to go into it, but like when you're talking about a player and you like stoop to making like personal remarks about players that have nothing to do with what they do on the floor or any of the other pertinent information to the conversation that you're having, I just don't have any respect for you. So
you're gross. That's what I'll say. It's gross.
All right. Okay, Luke, let's go ahead and take a look at the week ahead. So coming up on Tuesday, the Magic have the Charlotte Hornets at home. I believe that is our last matchup against the Hornets on the season. And we have the opportunity. No, we have one more matchup on Friday, April 5th. So we have the opportunity to go up 3-0 on the Charlotte Hornets and win the season series. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock at home. And then Thursday night, we'll be at home again. We're in the middle of this 8-game homestand. You have the Hornets Thursday night. That game is going to be on NBA TV. And then Pelicans. Saturday, you take on the Sacramento Kings again at home at 7 o'clock. What do you think happens?
Yeah, so like you said, Hornets Tuesday, Pels Thursday, Kings Saturday. That's tough. It's a tough week, but what I know is that the Orlando Magic are awesome at home. And if I'm just looking at like, I'm gonna say 2-1.
Yeah.
You gotta beat the Hornets, and then I just want you to split.
Yep.
One of those games. Pels, Kings. You're great at home. Like I said, at this point, you're 23-9. So protect the kingdom. Win all three, please. Prove me wrong. But I'm going to say 2-1 because those are tough teams. And if I'm being honest, I'm a little scarred from the Knicks and Pacers game still. The last time you played some good teams. I'm hopeful that they prove me wrong, go 3-0, but I'm going to say 2-1.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1. You beat Charlotte on Tuesday. I don't know how it shakes out, but you split those games with New Orleans and Sacramento. And just what I want to see is prove once again that you can be competitive with good teams because we've been playing a lot of bad teams the last month and a half. And the last time we played two good teams, we got the crap kicked out of us. So, yes, you came out and said tonight, oh, we had a talk after the Pacers game. We want to have a better response in these second halves. That's really easy to say 2 games against the Raptors. Let's see you do it against New Orleans, who is the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. And let's see you do it against the Sacramento Kings, who are the 6th, the Western Conference. And then the Kings, who are the 6th seed in the Western Conference. So we play the 5 and 6 seed in the Western Conference this week. So come out and beat both of those teams and show us like, hey, like we can hang with anybody and we're ready to hang with anybody, and like prove to me that you're ready for April. Because if you come out and you have 2 bad performances against New Orleans and Sacramento, then like as a prisoner of the moment, which I will be, and maybe like overly reactionary to a couple of those games, if you get your butts kicked in both of those games, I'm going to be like, man, it might not matter who we play in the playoffs. We just may not play that well. Yeah. So yeah, I would love it for these guys to come out and just sort of like remind us like, yo, like we're ready for April.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I'm jealous of those of you that will be in Kia for either of those games or both of those games against the Pels and the Kings, because I think those will be really, really fun atmospheres. They're going to be playoff atmospheres. These are, like you said, the 5 and 6 seeds in the West, and the Kings kind of being the darlings or coming off being the darlings of the West. It should be a really fun game to get up for. And hopefully our guys get up for those games as well. We've also been burnt by big games this year. Heat games, that Knicks game. We've been burnt. And I'm hoping that these guys come out and prove us wrong and show us why they are the 5th seed in the East.
Well, the Knicks game, like for the first quarter at least, that felt like a playoff environment. The Pacers game felt like a playoff environment for like the first couple of minutes of that game before it started to sort of get out of hand. And then yeah, like New Orleans and Sacramento should be playoff environments, but the Magic have to play like a playoff team for it to stay a playoff environment. So that's what we're going to be looking for this week. Luke, I don't really have anything else before we go ahead and wrap this one up. What about you?
No, nothing on my end. Let's sweep the week. Let's go Magic.
All right, folks, just want to remind you again of our group night coming up on March 30th. Even if you weren't part of the first like 60 tickets, and if you're not included in like the pregame hoops experience, we're still putting up additional seats that are going to be discounted. So if you want to come to that game, let me go ahead and pull up that URL again. Tickets are on sale now at fivo-enterprise.com/SIXTHMAN. And then the number 6. So if you want discounted rates and you want to come and sit with us and hang out and cheer at that game and maybe enjoy a little jam hot chicken before the game, we'll all be over there hanging out as well. So go ahead and head to that URL. And then Thursday, the next episode of the Six Fan Show is going to be recorded outside of Kia after the Magic take on the Pelicans. That is going to do it for this one. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Six Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!